Guys, this is What If Deku Was Gambit. Hey guys, so basically, just dive right into this fanfiction. Now, I am going to be making another What If later on this week. I'm going to be hitting you guys with video after video. I might drop What If Deku Was a Speedster reboot, and that's going to be a really well thought out What If, because I'm really trying to work with the idea of giving Deku super speed and really amplifying how that would change everything. But let's dive right into this fanfiction. What if Deku was Gambit? So how would Deku being Gambit, having his abilities, having his backstory, having his personality, and having his charismatic nature change the course of, well, My Hero Academia? Let's just dive right into it. I would start off with Deku's childhood. Deku's childhood would be very dark, very sad, matter of fact. At the beginning of Deku's childhood, Deku's parents would, well, let's just say, would have mysteriously perished. But get more into the fact how they did and how that would become a big turning point and a big plot device in this What If. Now, Deku's parents would have mysteriously died when Deku was about 3 years old. Deku being about 3 years old at this time, he would have been taken in by, well, some assassins. As these assassins would have been a part of an ancient, very low under the radar group of assassins, drug lords, and gang members in Japan. Basically being a part of the Yakuza at some extent, but being a lot more older and a lot more deep within the roots of Japan. Them being the cause of multiple different big-time villain shenanigans. But some of them wanting to fix the whole problem with Japan, about how they could make Japan better and how they could make it more secure. As this group of assassins thought and had the idea, if you can't take away crime, if you can't completely destroy it, you can never completely destroy crime because it will always be a thing. At least you can do it is control it and have it to a point where it doesn't hurt and destroy the city in itself. But this new modern time, this new modern era, the city is starting to get destroyed. People with new quirks are starting to appear, and people think they can take on everything and become new drug lords and crime bosses. Now, what would happen throughout these whole decades of years? Deku would have been taken in by these assassins. Now, he would have been taken in by these assassins years after his parents would have died. I said 3 years old, but Deku would have been living on the streets for a couple years. Him being about, let's say 9 to 10 years old when the assassins found him and took him in after them seeing his courage, his well-versed acrobatic skills, and his quickness on his feet to steal and survive. As he would also save the kid from getting, well, gunned down by a thug in the middle of the night. As he would have saved this kid, as this kid would have been sort of his neighbor in the alleyway they would have lived in. As Deku would have been, well, trained by the assassins. Assassins seeing potential in him as he was well-natured. He had a good heart, and he had a mysterious mind that could be used for multiple different applications. As he had the soul, the mind, the spirit, the strength, the body of an ace-tier assassin. Not being filled by rage or anger, him being filled by survival and love and compassion. As Deku would have over these years tried to keep himself quirky and try to keep himself happy, but Deku still having that part of him broken by the death of his parents. A part of him always truly changed, so he could never really truly, and I mean truly, ever find love in somebody, never trust nobody ever again. As he, throughout Deku's years on the streets, Deku would be betrayed time in and time out by multiple different people, him finding it hard to trust people, as it would have taken him a lot of time to trust the assassins that took him in. Now, Deku being trained by these assassins, Deku being trained in the type of fighting styles, acrobatics, and Deku being pretty much versatile in bow staff. As he would have been able to bojutsu, him being able to use that very well versatile. And also Deku finding a way to, well, pretty much modify his quirk into his powers. As Deku would have been about, let's say 5 years old when he modified or when he discovered his abilities. But his abilities would slowly get stronger as time would pass. The assassins taking him in, training him like I said earlier, and they would have been taking him to a mission. And this mission would have changed the course of Deku's life forever. It would have brought him into the world of heroes, and it would have truly changed his spec on everything. It would have truly made him rethink about how the assassins were training him, and how they were slowly over the years trying to make him more brutal. Still have a consciousness, but not have too much of a consciousness so they wouldn't let him just let anybody go. He would still be a killing machine. He would still do what he was supposed to be doing, killing people that they were hired or they had to kill for the safety of the city, for the safety of Japan. As Deku would have been down there trying to take down a big crime lord that was trying to come up the rise. Basically, this crime lord being a big time boss, having some sort of pyrokinetic ability, as they would have tried to take him out. As they would have literally just squatted the whole warehouse that they were at doing this whole shipment deal, as they would have also tried to kill all of them. But out of nowhere, them hearing a huge "I am here," as All Might and Endeavor and Eraserhead would have jumped in, fighting all the assassins. Deku being about 14 at this time, as everybody would have tried to fight and attack all of these people, them throwing huge amounts of fire, All Might trying to use wind pressure and his punches to take down these assassins, and also the crime lords. The crime lord would have been killed midway into the collage, or I guess scuffle, as one of the assassins would have thrown a shuriken towards the Jughead's throat, cutting him instantly, making him bleed out on the ground. As Deku would have came to the drug lord's face and would have tried to help him up, as Deku, first time ever, Deku was being trained to kill, being trained to fight, being trained to be fast enough to get out of the way, and to be a killing machine, to be precise, to be well versatile. But Deku never ever got close to killing somebody. They never trained him, they never truly prepared him for what would happen when he finally takes a man's life. As Deku would have tried to save the man, seeing that he didn't deserve to die, as he did some back research on the drug lord, found that he had 3 children, a wife, and another kid coming on the way. He was a good man trying to make a living for his family. He was just caught in the middle of the Yakuza and the Assassin's League. He was just caught in the middle of everything. As Deku would have tried to help the man coughing up blood and talking to him, saying, "Run," as the man would have noticed he was a child, and if he got caught in this situation, his life would be over. As the man was a good man at heart, as Deku would have started to cry a little bit as he would have ran off. As Deku would have ran off away from the warehouse trying to get away, but one of the assassins seeing that he was retreating, seeing that he was giving up, seeing that he tried to save that man's life. As one of the assassins would try to chase Deku down, trying to take him out, as he didn't want him to run around with the information he had on the Assassin League. He didn't want him to go and allow that to happen. So he would have started to attack Deku over and over, repeatedly trying to take him out. Deku would have started to dodge, weave, and evade all the attacks. Him grabbing the shuriken that one of the assassins thrown at him, him charging up with his kinetic energy, throwing it back at him, blowing the assassin's arm clean off. As Deku's, well, let's just say explosions would have been, fast, would have been strong, but him kinetically charging up something a little bit more heavier and denser than a throwing card wouldn't just be like a loud pop or explosion, like a little explosion, like a modified firecracker. It would have been more of a freaking grenade would have gone off. 3 grenades would have gone off. Deku blown the man's arm clean off, as the man would have yelled in pain, getting the attention of Eraserhead. So Eraserhead would have ran over there trying to get down to Deku, as Deku would have explained that I'm not trying to do anything, and that I need to leave. As Deku would have tried to talk to Eraserhead, but Eraserhead just seeing this person, Deku being too masked up, as he would just thought he was a short man, as he would have tried to attack Izuku. As Izuku would have dodged out the way, moving and weaving around the attack, as eventually Eraserhead's scarf would have been wrapped around Deku's arm. As Deku would have grabbed the scarf and would have tried to charge it up with the kinetic energy. As I was seeing that his scarf was being charged up, it was glowing. As Deku would have eventually got hit with the Eraserhead abilities, his powers being turned off, as Eraserhead would have drop-kicked him into the water because they would have been around the docks. As Deku would have gotten back up, or would have woken up in a hospital, being handcuffed to the room, as he would have seen Aizawa in the corner looking at him. Aizawa would have walked up to him saying, "Why are you in this thing, kid? Why are you with them, kid?" As Izuku would have said, "Let me go now." So he would have tried to rip himself out of the room, but Azawa had his quirk on him. As the doctor would have walked in with the police officers, as the police officers would have talked to Azawa, saying that his abilities are profound, but they were never calculated, they were never documented. He went off the grid after his parents died. His name is Izuku Midoriya. We haven't been able to find him in a long time. I guess the Assassin League got their hands on him, tried to train him as a young boy, tried to corrupt him. The best thing we could do, put him in juvie, maybe put him into an isolated prison. He's trained like the Assassin's League. He's more dangerous than we could think of. So Zawa says no. He's a kid. He's in a bad situation. I think I can help him. As we get switched a time year, about 2 years later, as Deku's about 16 now. As we get hit that Deku over the years, has been training. Deku's been training with Azawa, trying to give up his whole tactics on how to kill a man, him being trained how to immobilize a man, how to take him out, how to train him to be good. Azawa to convince them to try to become a hero, to try to right his wrongs, and to try to stop the type of, let's just say, depression and guilt Deku's been feeling these last few years after that man was killed, after that man was hurt. Deku remembering the last few minutes before the lead up of the big squat attack on the gang lord, or the drug lord, as he realized that he didn't truly want to kill him. This was his ever first real mission in the field where he had to kill somebody, where the kill was his, where the kill had to be his. And Deku was scared. First time ever. Deku was always scared in his life. Deku was always scared on the streets, but he was never scared. He was never pressured to do anything. This is the first time he ever was. And Deku was truly terrified. As Azawa would have been kind of father figure to Deku these last 2 years. As Deku finding his way closer to Azawa, trying to find out how he can be better than what he was, than what he was trained to be. He didn't want to be a murderer. He didn't want to be a killer. He didn't want to be a monster. As he saw the hope the drug lord had in his eyes when he told Deku to run. So the drug lord did not want Deku to be brought down by the wrongdoings of the Assassin League. Because everybody would have been talking about in the underground about how the assassins took in a little boy. They trained him and they corrupted him. A little boy that was only 9, 10 years old. They trained him to become a killer at such a young age. As the Assassin League would have been kind of a brutal group of individuals, but only one person in that group would have showed Deku love, attention, would have shown him compassion, and would have treated him like a child, like who he was, treated him like a kid, gave him love, compassion, feeling. As this man would have been named Oza, as he would have trained Deku in some tactics on acrobatic skills and being able to cartwheel, flip, and squeeze into tight situations, and also helping him how to control his quirk, as the man had a similar quirk to Deku, but not as powerful. Him being able to make things explode if he looked at them, but only if he looked at them for a solid of 30 seconds long, and then they would explode about 3 seconds afterwards. So Deku literally had a similar quirk to him, as he trained alongside him. Now at this point, Deku's experience would have been similar to Gambit's experience. Deku being fast enough and as athletic and also as versatile as Gambit's abilities, him also being able to use throwing cards like Gambit, as Deku would have also found a kind of a, I guess let's just say Deku had a really fine, like, impulsive, I guess you could say obsessive nature over gambling, and also card tricks and playing poker. He always loved that growing up. He always loved that. And he always played poker in the clubs after his training with the assassins. As Deku would have been with Azawa, as Azawa would have walked into the front gates of UA, leading up to, the entry exams. Now, during the whole 6 months arc training, Deku would have just been keep on training with Azawa, as Azawa would have been kind of a father figure to him, Azawa legally being Deku's legal guardian. As Izuku would have been trained. As Deku, first time ever, him feeling true love for somebody. Besides his parents, after they died, he felt like he was loved. Only person that ever loved him since his parents died was Oza, but now he has Ozawa. Now after this, Deku would have walked in the front gates, being ready, as he wouldn't be so clumsy. He wouldn't trip over, meaning that he would never bump into Chaku. He would never meet her at this point in time yet. Now Deku would have walked in there, him having a purple version of his green jumpsuit with his red shoes, as Deku would have gotten ready. Now Deku's hair would have also been changed. Deku's like look would have changed as well. Deku having the black aura, like the black pink pupil eyes Gambit has, like the devilish eyes Gambit has, with also him having dark brown hair. And Deku having a very toned physique, since he was always trained and in peak physical condition his whole life, because he always had to run the streets, run away from police officers. He was also trained by the assassins and by Aizawa. So Deku's skills and strength were basically modified over the couple of years, as Deku would have basically been at peak physical strength for his age. Him having a toned, defined body. Him being about let's say an inch taller. As Deku would have walked in there, him being ready for the written exam. Deku being ready for the written exam, being trained to also be smart by the assassins. Assassins would have trained him in a lot of different ways that we'll go into more depth in later on throughout the whole series. Now, what would happen as well, Deku would have aced the written exam, and eventually the physical exam would have came by, them going up against the robots. As Deku would have been quiet to himself in the corner, not being, pretty much talked to by Ida, him keeping himself throughout the whole situation. Eventually, after what would happen, Deku would have gotten ready, as they would have ran off. Deku ran off. Also, I forgot to mention, Deku was Japanese, and he's also from New Orleans. So basically, his mom's from New Orleans, and his dad is Japanese. So Deku learned a little bit of his accent because, well, let's just say the Assassin League that found Deku at the time, Deku was not in Japan at the time. Deku grew up in New Orleans. And he was taken by the Assassin League and taken to Japan when he was about 10 years old. So basically, pretty simple, Deku grew up in New Orleans, and Louisiana, New Orleans, and then he was taken to Japan after 10 years old, after the first year of the Assassins getting a little bit of a feel for him, as it would have taken him out of there and would have taken him back to Japan. So pretty simple, Deku is from Louisiana. So yeah. So that's the reason. That's how Deku has his accent. So I think I cleared that out. Okay, let's dive right back into the series. Dive right back into the story. Now what happened as well, Deku would have ran off past everybody, getting a really feel around the whole area, him dodging and weaving over the robots, throwing shurikens at them, as Deku would have also put in a sports, or not a sports item, but more of a support item, as in a deck of cards. As Deku would have had two big deck of cards on the back or on the sides of his sweatpants, as it would have been kind of like a belt. As Deku would have been throwing these playing cards left and right towards everybody, as he would eventually be running. Now, if you don't know Gambit's abilities, I'll give a little rundown. He has the ability to charge up objects with kinetic energy, take a little bit longer for him to charge up bigger items, but faster for him to charge up smaller items that aren't as heavy. So he can charge up like a playing card in a matter of a couple seconds. He can charge up a brick in a couple seconds, a little bit more seconds, but he can charge up anything depending on its weight and size. It takes longer or shorter depending if it's lighter and smaller. Also, Deku can charge up. Deku can't charge up inanimate objects, like he can charge up organic objects like humans and stuff like that. But Deku can technically, in theory, if he grabs a hold of your bone structure, he can literally charge up your whole bone structure, killing you instantly, blowing up your bones. So that's what Deku can do. He can do that. He can charge up things that aren't alive on your body, like your bone structure, or like a middle like hip, or some sort of false body part on your body, like a pretty much I guess you could say. I can't remember what it's called, but a extension of your body, like a false arm or a false leg, or even a fake eye. So he can do all those things pretty quickly, but he has to have skin-to-skin contact with those objects to make them kinetically charge up. Deku can also charge up parts of his body as well, but he can't charge them up too long or else he'll blow off his limbs, literally. So he can charge up parts of his body with kinetic energy, so he can basically do like a super Iron Fist punch against people's body as a last resort. After he does that too many times on parts of his body, he'll get dark bruises or cuts or lashes, or his veins will start to pop and explode with underneath his skin, with when he's like, coursing the kinetic energy through. So yeah, but other than that, Deku would have been running around the running around the Fell City, taking out the robots left and right, gaining up a lot of points very quickly. Him eventually coming across a 0-pointer. As Deku was about to run off, but him hearing a girl scream, as he would have looked back, seeing a brown-haired girl under some rubble. As Deku would have ran over there, throwing cards towards the robot's feet. As he would have thrown about like 15 to 16 throwing cards, throwing them towards the robot's feet, the robot being pushed back a little bit, making a huge dust cloud, Deku being unable to see, but him being able to feel a little bit, using muscle memory to try to push the rubble off of Ochaku. Him just using his memory last time where he saw Ochaku before the dust cloud settled, as he would have pushed the rubble off of her using as much strength as he could, using his bow staff to basically use, let's just say weights like science to push it off her. As he would have grabbed her and would have ran off. Now, Deku's support items would have allowed him to use his quirk at his full extent, as Deku would have not been using his whole, kinetic energy body part move, as he is too risky for him. He has to charge it for a specific amount of time, where either it's too weak or too strong, and it'll hurt his body. So it's kind of a gamble. He has to really, calculate it before he tries it. He can't just wing it, or else he'll have, we'll just say very big damage on his body if he charges it too much. Now, Deku would have been running, eventually getting her to recover the girl, running back into the city, trying to get more points, but eventually the bell going off after Deku gets about 15 to 16 more points. Now, eventually, Deku would have ran off, as everybody would have been told to go home, as it would get their results later. As Izuku would have been walking home, as Aizawa in the stands would have seen Deku, as All Might would have talked to Aizawa, saying that the kid has potential. He has very good potential. As All Might would have saw him, seeing that he was very well trained, and he might have some skills that he could give to him. Maybe he could be the successor. His quirk, double multiplied with All For One, could give him a huge edge. But him thinking back to himself that Mirio's a better choice. As we could switch from that. As we could switch the next couple of days after Aizawa would have been coming in late for, hero assignments, stuff like that. As eventually Aizawa would have came to the house, throwing a letter towards Deku, as Deku would have been training in the back of the house, him kicking his punching bag. As eventually he would have been opening up the note, as he would have been given the news that he got into UA, as he got pretty good points. Now we get switched to the first day of UA, Deku being in class 1A, walking into class 1A and sitting back in the back of the class, as Aizawa would have been asleep. Now we will see that Deku would have known that Aizawa was behind the, pretty much desk, as he didn't want to say anything, as he just chilled in the back of the class, but him being interrupted by, Ochaku, as Ochaku would have talked to him and basically try to flirt with him a little bit. As Deku would have said, "Hey, it's nice to see you again." As he would have tried to flirt with her a little bit. Now, a lot of the girls would have been gushing at Deku's Louisiana accent. They just like gushing at it, bro. Like the accent was just doing it for them. As Deku would have just had his little charm. Now, I forgot to mention, Gambit has another power called, I guess, a seductive, or like it's kind of like a attraction quirk. He doesn't know how to turn it off, but he can basically kind of like give people an extra nudge if they even are slightly attracted to Izuku. He gives them an extra nudge to actually act on those feelings. So he can like seductively, like slowly edge a person to liking or being attracted to him. So it's kind of like that. Now what happened is, well, Deku would just started to talk to her a little bit. As after that, he would have sat back down, as Momo would try to talk to him as well. As Momo would have tried to talk to him, basically her trying to flirt with him a little bit, as he would flirt back with her. As they would eventually get interrupted by Aizawa telling everybody to settle down and telling Deku to calm down and keep it in your pants, as everybody would have kind of chuckled in the class. As everybody would have been taken outside, being told that you may have gotten past the entry exams, but you haven't gotten past my exams. As everybody would have been taken out there, being told to get dressed in their gym uniforms, as Deku would have gotten ready in his gym uniforms. In his gym uniform, people seeing the scars on his body, because Deku would have had similar scars to where All For One, or like, no, One For All would have, damaged him, having similar scars on his body, but them being a little bit more deeper, because it would have been those blade attacks, shuriken, knife throwing, or even just false explosions Deku inflicted on himself. As Deku would have had some scars around his body, but him not being too damaged. As Deku would have walked past everybody, as they would have, been kind of, interested in Deku's story. Them being kind of, confused by him. But other than that, Deku would have walked in there, him being the first person out of the locker room, as everybody would have gotten ready. As Momo would have saw him from afar, her kind of giving him a look. As everybody would have been interrupted by, Aizawa basically being told that they're going to do quirk exams, as they may have gotten past the entry exam, but they haven't gotten past my exams, like I said earlier. So they told everybody to get ready, as Deku's the first one told to throw the ball. As Deku grabs the ball and chucks it as hard as he can, charging it up, as he would have thrown it as hard as he can, throwing up his 2 or 3 fingers, basically throwing it as hard as he can, pushing off kinetic energy out of his fingers, pushing the ball as hard as he can, plus it's already immense top shape and strength. Deku got a pretty decent score for somebody that doesn't have superhuman strength, but him getting a pretty good score. Deku, same thing with long jump. Deku being pretty athletic and pretty agility blessed. Deku being as athletic as Nightwing and Gambit mixed together. Deku getting a pretty good score. As Deku would have also, for the race, Deku getting a pretty good score, like 3rd, 4th place. Deku being pretty fast, because he would have been kind of like a track star type speed, because he was running from the police his whole childhood, and from assassins his whole childhood. So yeah, so Deku would have gotten a pretty good score overall, as all the other scores like sit-ups, push-ups, and stuff like that, Deku did pretty good at. And after all that, the grip test strength would have gone pretty good, as Deku would have gotten a pretty good score, about 3rd to 4th place. As everybody else would have been got pretty good scores, as Mineta would have been shocked. Him saying, "Oh shit, I'm about to get out. I'm about to be failed. I'm about to fail. Oh my god, I'm about to get expelled." As I would explain that he was just teasing them about the whole expulsion thing, as he just told them that so they can do their best, so no one would hold back or just think it was a joke. Now, Aizawa would have pat Mineta on the back, saying, "You're a good little dude," as he would have pushed him down mischievously, as he would have walked away, him telling them to grab their syllabus before they leave, as he would have told Deku to hurry up. As everybody would have been kind of confused why Aizawa talked to him specifically, but Deku just giving a cheeky little smile, walking away, grabbing his syllabus, and following Aizawa to the car, then going home. Now, I'm gonna leave it off here, guys. So, actually, no, I'm not gonna leave it off here, guys, because there's a little bit of a cliffhanger I'm gonna leave you guys at. As Aizawa and Deku would have gone home, Deku would have looked out of the window, him being really happy at his first day of UA, but him hearing a noise, him looking around, seeing nothing, but him being kind of, on the fence about what he just heard, but him just trying to keep it to himself, trying not to think too much about it. But from afar, on another rooftop, looking through the window, seeing and watching Izuku, it would have been an assassin. Them telling themselves, "I found him." So I'm gonna leave it out here, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. And as always, guys, have a blessed day. Deuces.